Mysterious and distant Japan, land of the rising sun, harsh homeland of martial arts and delicate cradle of blooming sakura. The country where the latest technologies are progressively introduced and where history and culture formed over millennia are gently respected. Despite the great geographical distance, Japan and Uzbekistan are connected by a commonality of Oriental cultures, traditions, and close ties of civilizations of the Great Silk Road. In historical times, along these roads there was an exchange not only of goods but of knowledge, cultural traditions. Back in the 6th century, from Termes along the Silk Road through neighboring states, Korea and China, Buddhism came to Japan, which became the most widespread religion here. The place of cultural legacy of the Japanese people, city of Nara, the first capital of Japan. It still keeps the secrets of Buddhism, its emergence in the land of the rising sun. Majestic temples carefully preserve relics of the most ancient religion, as well as other artifacts that have been delivered to the islands from Central Asia. Todaiji Temple is considered a sacred place for pilgrims. Annually, more than 3 million people visit it. The temple is operational and services are held daily in it, and sutras are read. Todaiji Temple is the largest wooden structure in the world, and it houses the largest bronze statue of Buddha. Over 2 million people were involved in the construction of the Todaiji Temple, and almost all of Japan's bronze supply was expended. It was built in just 2 years and completed in 745. The parameters of the Buddha statue are impressive. The height of the figure is almost 15 meters. If together with a pedestal, then the height of the statue is 22 meters. After the death of the emperor, the things he treasured were transferred to the storehouse of the Todaiji Temple. The preservation and maintenance of the entire building was entrusted to the Todaiji Temple. Currently, this storehouse is called the Shosoin Main Treasury and is under the administration of the Imperial Court. It was possible to open and close this treasury only with the permission of the emperor. Every year, in early October, the opening ceremony of the doors of the Shosoin Treasury takes place. Constructed in the middle of the 8th century, the building has become the largest treasury in the world, erected from wood. It's listed on the UNESCO World Heritage Site. This is a single building with 3 rooms. The very valuables that once has been in it are now moved to 2 modern storage buildings built of reinforced concrete structures and located close to the old building. In essence, all things date back to the 8th or 9th centuries of our era, and among them there are many items that have been made outside of Japan. The roads of the Great Silk Road that led to Japan from Central Asia passed through the territory of Uzbekistan constitute a great interest because things were transmitted along these roads. Currently, it's often difficult for us to determine which item was produced where, but we can testify for certain that many of them passed through the territory of Uzbekistan. The mirror from the Shosoin Treasury is decorated with inlays of various precious or semi-precious stones, including lapis lazuli, originating from the Badakhshan region. On closer examination, these are stones from Uzbekistan. The Shosoin collection contains a large number of carpets, many of which have been made in the vast territory of Asia, but among them there are carpets that originated from Central Asia. This is what we are told from the grains of plants that have been found during the analysis of carpets. The example of carpets show us the role that played Central Asia in transferring many things to the Shosoin Treasury of Japan. The Shosoin Treasury provides us with very good material for considering the concept of the very role of the Great Silk Road and allows us to take a fresh look at its formation and the role of the establishment of the Great Silk Road. Those cultural phenomena that arrived to Shosoin along the Silk Road didn't end their journey on this. The imperial treasury became a new starting point for them. As a result, new trends arose in Japanese culture. 8th century AD, the Chinese monk Jian Zhen tried to find way into Japan. He experienced shipwrecks on the road. Many obstacles stood in his way. His attempts failed 5 times. The monk lost his sight, and on his 6th attempt, he got his way to Japan in the end. Together with Jian Zhen, his disciple Anoka arrived to Japan. He was a Sogdian. According to Japanese chronicles, Anoka was a native of the valley of the Zarafshan River, which was a tributary of the Amu Darya or Oxus. For 5 long years, Jian Zhen with Sogdian Anoka lived in Todaiji Temple, after which in Nitaba district, another Tosodaiji temple was founded in 759. After the death of his teacher, the Sogdian continued construction and became 3rd or 4th guardian of Tosodaiji. This plate with the inscription was made back in the days of Anoka. The temple is protected as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. In this place, in the Toshodaiji temple, we can see the stupa, where the monks conduct an initiation. For Japan, this is an uncharacteristic building. The suburb of ancient Japan, Kyoto, small town Shigaraki. Nature bestowed the most picturesque places. It didn't stint on paints. Waterfalls, lakes, forests, mountains. An ideal place to establish a museum. Thus, Mika Museum was founded in 1997 by Madame Mihoko Koyama. Architect Jogmin Pei was inspired by the legend of the Peach Valley, which says, in ancient China, a fisherman lived in a village. Once his boat was carried away by the current and he lost the usual passage. Following the river, the boat sailed to the place where he saw a beautiful peach tree. Sailing closer, he saw the entrance to the cave, through which a bright light was breaking through. He entered this gorge and couldn't take his eyes off. A peach valley stretched in front of him, which expanded along the coast to the horizon, and its end was not visible. It was inhabited by people who lived in abundance, in peace and happiness. Returning to his homeland, the fisherman saw a sharp contrast between the reality surrounding him and the life of the inhabitants of the Peach Valley. He began to tell people about this beautiful place. Rumors of a Peach Valley reached the governor, who, wishing to get hold of their wealth, set off an expedition in search of the Peach Valley. But no one could find an entrance there no more. This ancient Chinese legend became the concept of the architect. Mika Museum possesses art collections of ancient civilizations of the world from Egypt and Mesopotamia to China and ancient America. The art of Central Asia is also well represented in the collection, starting from the ancient Bactrian period to the early Middle Ages. Artifacts of ancient Bactria, gold items of the famous Amu Darya treasury, statues of Buddhas, carved panels of early medieval Sogdian tombs discovered in China, and much more. Miha Museum has an extensive collection of Japanese art on the one hand and the art of world civilization on the other hand. This is the Middle East and India and China and ancient America. But of course, a special place in our museum is occupied by the art of Central Asia. Here we have presented all the periods about the development of Central Asian art, starting from ancient Bactria and Margiana and ending with the Sogdians and their art. We also have a large number from the culture of the Kushan Empire, which is Gandhara sculpture. I would especially like to emphasize that we also have objects of the Hellenistic period, including the famous Treasury of Oxus. In general, we can say that the entire history of Central Asia is presented in the collection, starting from the most ancient period, the emergence of statehood, and ending with the Islamic period. The museum holds plaques for offering to the temple and various decorations of the gold treasury found in the territory of Bactria. This treasury is called the Treasury of Oxus. Apparently, it belongs to the same series of the Amudaya treasury stored in the British Museum. The very core of the Kushan Empire, 1st to 3rd centuries of our era, apparently included peoples of Iranian origin. The Kushan Empire developed and grew, gradually including the territory of the northern part of India, where Buddhism was already actively practiced. This 2.5-meter tall sculpture is one of the largest Buddha statues in Gandhara and belongs to the ancient style of Buddhist sculpture. Miho Museum also holds various sculptural reliefs depicting the birth and life of the Buddha. Having strengthened their position in China as a result of commercial activities on the Silk Road, senior members of the Sogdian communities adopted a system of burial beds that, on the one hand, corresponded to the Chinese tradition, and on the other hand, the concepts of Zoroastrianism. That is, the bodies of the deceased didn't pollute fire, water, earth, and air. Sogdians in China during the Northern dynasties laid down their deceased. They laid their dead directly on stone lodges, surrounded by stone panels decorated in a special way, reflecting the spiritual world of Central Asian Zoroastrianism. The museum's great valuables include the composite figure of a seated goddess created in Bactria, Margiana in the Bronze Age. It consists of several parts and depicts the goddess in clothing and fetters, kaunikis. These type of clothing arrived to Central Asia from Mesopotamia and reflects the close ties of Central Asia with the Middle East during that period. In 1930, a museum was founded at Tenri University. I must say that Tenri University at that time was some sort of a school of foreign languages. Then, it was not a university with various disciplines as it's now, but a kind of special language school. And in accordance with the idea of the founders of the university, simply speaking in different languages wasn't enough. Therefore, in order to understand the cultures of different countries, this museum was established. In order to better understand Islamic culture, in 1960, the museum acquired a collection from Central Asia. There are 6 of them in the museum's collection. 5 of them are ethnographic objects, 1 archaeological. The concept of Tenri University was established as a language school. But in order to speak a language, one needs to understand the culture of the site, language of which is being studied. This is the main concept created at the Tenri University. Its task is to present the history and life of as many countries as possible through the objects of their material culture. There are few materials from Central Asia in our collection, but we will make efforts to further collect materials from Central Asia. The silver bowl with the image of animals is typical for the art of Sogd, for Sogdian merchants who lived on the territory of contemporary Uzbekistan. A floral ornament, a lotus-like flower, a rim, and it allows us to state that the item is Sogdian. Suzane, Burjoma, headwear, Tsubiteka are also objects from Central Asia. Stringed instrument, tutar. In Japan, there is such a type of stringed instrument, biwa. This type of instrument came from antiquity, becoming an essential everyday thing. Okoyama Orient Museum opened in 1979. At that time, the city of Okoyama hosted an exhibition of art from ancient Mesopotamia, which displayed more than 200 items from Baghdad State Museum. Admired by this exhibition, collector Yasuhara Shinjiro set off for Iraq and collected more than 2,000 objects of ancient art. He presented his collection to the city of Okoyama. Currently, there are more than 4,800 objects of Near and Middle East art. This is the only municipal museum dedicated to the art of that region. For the most part, glazed ceramics of the 10th to 16th centuries is presented here, which quite fully represents the variety of pottery of the Islamic period. Peisho courtyard, where the fountain is recreated, often adorns the houses of Central Asia, Iran, and West Asia. The Majolica panel was created by Kato Tako, a ceramist from Tajimi, Gifu Prefecture. For the first time, he was able to recreate the lost art of Islamic chandelier, Majolica. This technology had been of such complexity that the tiles made by him at the initial stage, notably to the opening of the museum, were all different. There were records that only about 20% of the tiles he burned were suitable for that panel. It was very interesting that it was the Japanese who managed to recreate the forgotten technology of Islamic art. The Museum of the Middle East has 450 items of Islamic ceramics. From the point of view of the Japanese aesthetics of tea, Islamic ceramics turned out to be very much relevant to the taste of the Japanese, that it gained great popularity. And the fact that these objects were well understood and close to the Japanese was an important feature of that part of the collection. This is the cup of the 14th century, from the times of Amr Timur. It was brought from Iran, but a floral ornament covering the entire surface of the bowl, an ornament depicting herbs, were typical of Central Asia. Bowls with the image of birds can also be attributed to ceramics of Central Asia. Pink and green colors in the design only confirm this. Such birds, wagtails, lived in the Amudarya region. No less interesting are the heads of benefactors in the museum. They donated to Buddhist temples during the Kushan Empire. According to the shape of the face of one of the benefactors, upper right, we can say that he is a Sogdian. These figures belong to 3rd to 5th centuries of our era. The unique collections of objects created on the territory of Uzbekistan or related to it are now stored in museums of Japan, manifest how closely our countries and cultures interact from ancient times.